Good afternoon. Welcome to the third Bureau of Business Research webinar of the 2021 Fall Series. Today we'll be focusing on how to use the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce Talent Availability Dashboard. This is a study that was completed through a collaboration between the UNL Bureau of Business Research and the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. My name is Mitch Harrion. I serve as Project Director here at the Bureau of Business Research. We are housed in the Department of Economics at the College of Business here at UNL. Dr. Eric Thompson, the Director of the Bureau of Business Research, was the lead author on the report we will be presenting today and was the driving force behind the analyses contained within. Before we begin today's presentation, I would like to point out several features of the webinar. As you can see, we will be using a PowerPoint presentation and we will switch over to demonstrate the live interactive website to present the results of the study to you today. One feature of the webinar is a chat window where participants can chat with one another at any time. We also have a Q&A window where participants can post their questions at any time they would like. I'll just point out that we will answer questions at the end of the webinar after the presentation is complete. With that, we will begin today's presentation. The Greater Omaha Chamber Talent Availability Report was a result of an interest by the Greater Omaha Chamber to understand how the labor market may have changed or how it's been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Here in Nebraska, as not just throughout the U.S., but the world, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted labor markets. Here in Nebraska, the unemployment rate reached 7.4%. In 2020, according to the Nebraska Department of Labor. As COVID restrictions were lifted and employees returned to work, the Greater Omaha Chamber sought to understand which industries and employees returned to work most quickly. Additionally, the Chamber was interested in understanding whether certain demographic groups were slow to return to employment. Again, the focus is on the Greater Omaha Area. As many of you know, the Omaha Metropolitan Statistical Area, the MSA, is comprised of 8 counties, 5 in Nebraska, 3 in Iowa. 5 Nebraska counties are Cass, Douglas, Sarpy, Saunders, and Washington counties. The Iowa counties are Harrison, Mills, and Pottawatomie. In addition to the 8 counties that comprise the Omaha MSA, we considered 2 adjacent counties to the Omaha MSA. These are Dodge and Otoe counties, Fremont being the principal city in Dodge County, and Nebraska City being the principal city in Otoe County. There's enough of a relationship between those counties and the Omaha MSA that we thought it was reasonable to include them in this analysis. Focus is placed on three different variables. First, we look at available labor in this geographic region. We look at the count of eligible unemployed and jobs taken. Available labor refers to the unemployed, labor market entrants, net migrants to Nebraska, whether there's any change in labor force participation, and individuals who may change jobs or occupations. The count of eligible unemployed is simply the number of individuals eligible for and who apply for unemployment insurance claims. Jobs taken, this refers to job openings that are filled. This is estimated based on opportunities that exist when individuals exit the workforce or there's a net increase in employment. The data sources for these variables include the following. For counts of unemployment insurance claims, the Nebraska Department of Labor and Iowa Workforce Development provided us very rich information about claimants, and you'll see some of this in a few minutes. Counts of jobs taken, this was estimated based on staffing patterns that we received from the Nebraska Department of Labor and forecasts of industry growth from UNL Bureau of Business Research. Counts of available labor, this was estimated based on components of population change data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the annual report of the Nebraska Commission on Post-Secondary Education, and the U.S. Department of Education. As I mentioned, the data we received on unemployment claims allows us to look at things by demographics, geography, industry, and occupation. So here are these bullet points. You can see we can break data out by age, education, gender, Hispanic origin, industry and occupation, race, veteran status, and zip code. As you'll see in a few minutes, the county level data we receive on unemployment claims is very rich. The zip code level data that we obtained does not provide the same level of detail for confidentiality reasons. The Department of Labor in Nebraska and their counterparts in Iowa are just uncomfortable providing such detailed information about demographics and things like that for some zip codes where very few individuals reside and where it may be possible to identify individuals who do claim unemployment. So here's just a screenshot of what the online dashboard looks like. Before we move into demonstrating the dashboard and working with it, I would point out that here at the UNL Bureau of Business Research, we typically use, or not typically, we use R for a lot of our work and applications that we build like this. R is an open source statistical computing software. It allows you not just to do statistical analyses, but it also lets you do things like we'll see today, where you can build dashboards, you can build websites, you can build interactive documents. We have a Bureau Scholars program where we have very talented undergraduate research assistants work with us. In this particular project, a couple of our students helped us build this dashboard that we'll be looking at today. So that's just a little bit of background on how we built the dashboard. There are other tools out there like Tableau and Power BI that are commonly used. But here at the Bureau, we like to introduce students to R. The particular library we're working with is the R Shiny package, because it gives students the opportunity to work with data and to work with a little bit of code, kind of easy to understand code. So just a little bit of background on why we used R. So now we can shift over to actually working with the dashboard, and we may need to refresh. Okay. So again, thank you for your patience there. This, as I mentioned, this particular application does take a couple of seconds to load every now and then. But once it does, you can see there are a lot of different ways you can explore the data. So along the left-hand side, we have several drop-down menus. By default, we are looking at county-level data, okay? So again, here are the counties included in our analysis. You hover over those, you can get some more detailed information about each of those counties. They're color-coded according to this legend over here on the bottom right, okay? If we do click this, we can get zip code level data. But as I mentioned, a lot of the demographic, industry, and occupation data that we have for the counties are unavailable for the zip codes. Again, these are for confidentiality reasons. But nonetheless, you can hover over and you can see, in this case, we're looking at available labor in each zip code. Here we're looking at the count of eligible unemployed. So you can explore zip code level data. You can see the zip codes that look more like a grid. These are kind of the downtown, older parts of Omaha. So if you want to focus on those, you can. For today's presentation, we're going to focus on the county level data so we can get into some of the demographics and occupations and industries. We'll begin with some occupation data. And these results that we'll be looking at today, these will be some of the things that are highlighted in the report, the most recent report that was released, the Q2 results. So a couple of the occupations that are highlighted in that report. So first, child care workers. So child care workers, as we know, the pandemic took a toll on child care facilities, educational facilities. So child care workers is a relevant occupation to examine. And we will focus on the count of eligible unemployed for this discussion. Okay, so what we're looking at here, so you can see up top we have some summary boxes. So this tells us that 5,663 jobs are available in this occupation category in the Omaha, Greater Omaha area in this case. As of the second quarter 2020, 1,240 individuals in this occupation had filed for unemployment in either Omaha, Iowa or Nebraska. By the second quarter of this year, that number had dropped to 180. That represents an 85% decrease in the number of unemployment claims. In the other box to the right, this is the projected number of unemployment claims that will occur in the second quarter of 2022. So a reduction from 180 to 161 for about an 11% decrease. Okay. Again, if you hover over the counties, you can get the totals for each of the counties. Okay. Another occupation that was highlighted in the most recent report are customer service representatives. You can see there, like as I mentioned, there are over 900 occupations here, so it takes a second to sort through some of these. There we go. Okay, so once you find the occupation you're interested in, again, we can explore the data. So customer service representatives, 1,428 unemployment claims in the second quarter of 2020. This was reduced to 462 in the second quarter of 2021. However, in this case, we see a projected increase in the number of unemployment claims in the second quarter of 2022. So we actually see a 50% increase in this occupation. Again, you can hover over the counties to obtain county level information. And one thing I hadn't mentioned is that at the bottom of the dashboard, you can see some specific information about occupations, requirements for education requirements and things like that. Again, those results were highlighted in the report as kind of moderate skill occupations. We can take a look at one high skill occupation where there are some interesting trends as well. Construction managers. Second quarter of 2021, and the count of eligible unemployed. So again, there are 1,455 jobs available in this occupation category. Second quarter of 2020, there were 187 unemployment claims. This had been reduced to 28 claims in the second quarter of 2021 for an 85% decrease. And this is projected to go all the way down to 2 claims next year, which would represent a 93% decrease. Aside from occupations, again, we can explore various demographic groups. One potentially interesting group to look at one interesting category to look at is gender, so we can explore potential differences between males and females. Again, we will focus on the count of eligible unemployed for the second quarter of 2021. And the reason why it may be interesting to look at gender in this particular case is because we know the pandemic when schools shut down, when restrictions were put in place on child care facilities and schools, it may have affected females more so than males, just because females may have been more likely to take on those homeschooling responsibilities or those child care responsibilities when schools and daycare facilities shut down or limited their services. And it's actually something that's sort of borne out by what we see here. So among females, so 227,898 potential or jobs available for females in the Omaha metro. In the second quarter of 2020, 29,609 females had claimed unemployment. So that represents 13% of this total. In the second quarter of 2021, this number had been reduced to 4,638 individuals filing for unemployment. So that's an 84% reduction from second quarter 2020 to the second quarter of 2021. It is projected that there will be a 25% reduction next year, all the way down to 3,457 individuals filing for unemployment. Just taking a look at the males, we can do a little bit of a comparison. So 247,951 jobs for males in the Greater Omaha area. And in the second quarter of 2020, 22,440 males had applied for unemployment insurance. This number was reduced to 4,136 individuals in the current year, quarter two, for a reduction of 82%. Next year, it is projected that this number will decrease to 2,164, which would represent a 48% reduction in unemployment claims. So when you take a step back and look at the data, what we see here is that females and males, if we look at the change in unemployment claims from quarter 2 2020 to quarter 2 2021, both groups experienced a similar reduction in the number of unemployment claims, 84% and 82%. However, because a greater proportion of women started or initially applied for unemployment insurance, you can see that this number is still higher in the current year for females than males. For 4,638 females in the current year versus 4,136 for males. So males have a greater number of, females have a greater number of unemployment insurance claims, even though they make up a smaller proportion of the overall workforce. And further, it is expected that males will experience a greater reduction in unemployment insurance claims. So it's almost as though the effects of the pandemic are maybe lingering a little bit longer for females as compared to males. Okay. One final demographic group I'd like to highlight, or demographic outcome I'd like to highlight, are just veterans versus non-veterans. You can see we have veteran data for Nebraska, but not Iowa. So for non-vets, we have 408,000 about individuals or jobs available for non-veterans. In quarter 2 of 2020, about 9% of those individuals had applied for unemployment. This number was reduced by 83%. There we go. 45,620 individuals had filed for unemployment in 2020, second quarter 2020. This number was reduced to 7,839 individuals, so for an 83% reduction between these two quarters, year to year. It is expected there will be another 35% reduction for non-vets next year. For veterans, 10% of individuals had applied for unemployment insurance in second quarter of 2020. So the proportion was a little bit higher for vets than non-vets. That veteran group experienced an 84% reduction from 2020 to 2021. The primary difference between the groups is that we expect a greater reduction for veterans versus non-veterans moving into 2020. So veterans are expected to experience a 47% reduction in unemployment claims, whereas non-vets are expected to experience a 35% reduction. Okay, and that sort of wraps up the portions of the online dashboard that I was hoping to present to you today. So at this point, I would encourage attendees, viewers of the webinar to explore the data on your own, to access the dashboard and look at various demographic, industry, or occupation outcomes that might interest you. At this point, I'd be happy to take any questions that individuals might have. I'll do my best to answer those. And as you can see on the screen here, we do have more webinars, one more webinar this fall coming. In December, Dr. Thompson will present the Nebraska economic forecast. Okay. If there are any questions that were not answered by me today or that will not be answered by me today, feel free to contact me at this email address or Dr. Thompson. We'd be both happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. And finally, if you would like to connect with the Bureau of Business Research, we have our various social media handles posted on this slide. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter by sending your preferred email address to bbr@unl.edu. And not seeing any questions at this time, I will go ahead and close the webinar. I'll thank everybody for your time, and I'd like to thank the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce for their partnership on this effort, the Nebraska Department of Labor and the Iowa Workforce Development for providing us the very detailed and rich data with which we were able to build this dashboard and produce the report. So I'd like to thank everybody again for your time, and thank you. Bye.